Hey guys, this is Alex Pierce. I wanted to give you a quick tutorial on how to import lots of clips and maintain their folder structure. But the first thing we want to do actually is show you how to play back H.264 media. If you don't already have this set up this way, I highly recommend it. Otherwise, you might run into problems with your media. So first when you first open Assimilate, go to System Settings, and over in this Advanced tab here, so by default, you're here in the general. Go over here to the advanced tab and then type in H.264 or just 264. And there are a number of GPU decoders. By default, this is off. You need to turn this on. By default, it's 4. You need to make this 0 and then press OK. You'll have to restart Assimilate, but that's going to ensure that it will load H.264 media properly. It's a very, very important step. Do not forget that step. All right, I'm going to make a new project. I'll just call this Media Import Tutorial. And this is where you kind of need to make a distinction of how you want to work. There in Assimilate, there is the timeline, which goes left and right, and versions, which go up and down. And these are sort of used in lots of different ways. Obviously, if you're doing color grading, you would have a different version. You'd have 5 different versions, and before you change something, you make another version so you can go back to it. I sort of use this area just as a staging area. So it really depends on your use case, how many clips you're bringing in, whatever. But we're going to go through a few different things here, and I'll show you why you might choose one or the other. So right now you see also we have this group here, and we have timeline. So I can add a bunch of timelines here. I can delete by pressing edit, and then I can select multiple of these and delete them. I'm going to go ahead and press delete, and so I just have the one timeline. So I'm going to go to import clips, and I'm going to go to my downloads folder. I have this folder called Media Import Tutorial. So in this folder, I have several subfolders, and inside of there's a bunch of different clips. And Assimilate has lots of different ways with importing these clips. If you want to import them all onto one timeline, you can do that. If you want to import each folder as its own timeline, you can do that. And if you want to have all of the folders come in on one timeline and each folder have its own version, you can do it that way. So let's look at all 3 ways. So first will be we'll select the parent folder, and we'll import all of these files onto one long timeline. So I'm going to select folder. So this may be off by default. So with this off by default, then I would have to select a specific clip. If you do select folder, then I can click on specific folders, and I can also shift select. Oh no, I can't. So it's just the folder itself, and then so I can click on the parent folder of these 5 folders, and then how this create new timeline and depth is going to be how we determine how it's imported. So let's do create new timeline, and we'll set the depth to 10, which is the maximum. What that's going to do is going to look inside of this folder and 10 folders deep and try to find all of the media and put that all on one timeline. So go ahead and press open, and then you see here we have a few different options here. So we can do the current time frame, we can do a new per folder name, and we can do a new per subfolder. And you can already see where this is going. If I do new per subfolder, it's going to create a new one for all the subfolders that are inside. For now, we're just going to do current, and if I just press OK, this loaded all of our clips from inside of all of the subfolders all onto one long timeline. And this, for some purposes, this is the best way to do it. It's just all really personal preference. So let's go ahead. I'm going to rename this, and to rename something, you have to have edit enabled. So I'm going to press edit, and I'm going to do. I'll call this one long timeline. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try this again, except this time I'm going to do import clips. Well, let me try this first. I'll keep this all the same, and the only thing I'm going to change is new per subfolder. Okay, so now I'm going to have new per subfolder, and so now if I press that, you can see we have all of our subfolders now have their own timeline. So I can see fire is all in one timeline, water is all in a different timeline, clouds are in a different timeline, driving and fractals, they all have their own timeline. And this can be really great for some things. This, you can scrub through any footage here just by clicking on the time code up here. If I click on this and I drag to the right, I can actually scrub through this this file. And where it becomes really important is when let's say the first frame is black, like in this case, I can actually click on this and then drag into it. It's actually going to remember this number here, 156, that's the current frame. So you can see if I go to 0, it's black, and if I go to frame 100, I can see what this clip is now, and I might do that on a few of these. And what's great about this is that it leaves this frame as the thumbnail. So even if I go to a different timeline and come back, you can see it's not starting back at 0, it's starting wherever I left it. And even if I close the project and open it back, it's going to remember this thumbnail. So this is also very helpful for when you're trying to search through 1,000 clips and you want to know what it is, especially if the frame 0 is black. That is a really, really helpful tip. Okay, let's go ahead and add a new timeline. I'll call this versions, and I'm going to do import clips. This time what we're going to do is we're going to select the parent folder. We're not going to create a new timeline. We're going to do depth of 1, and if we press open, now you can see it's actually imported all of our clips, and each folder is its own shot with versions for everything that's inside of that folder. One of the reasons this is helpful to me, at least, is now I can see a lot more of my clips very easily. And I can click here and scroll down just by clicking and dragging. Anywhere on your timeline, I can actually hold, if I just click and drag to the left and right, it's going to click this clip. If I hold down spacebar, you can see I get this new icon. What that allows me to do is go down my timeline very easily. Hold down spacebar, and then I can just sort of use my mouse to drag all the way down the timeline here. So if we go back to versions, doing the same thing, we can, without holding spacebar, I can click to drag and cycle through these different ones. If I double click, it's going to enter on that one. I can see all of my other clouds in this one, in my version stack here. So over here you have node tree, you have staging. If under versions, you have all of your clouds in one, in one shot essentially. So that's another one of the benefits of doing it this way with versions, is that if I want to be in fire and I want to cycle through my different fire ones, they're all in one shot, and I don't have to go back and forth from the construct. Like if, for instance, if this is in fire, I have to go back out to construct into the next shot, and you can see I don't have access to those here. So this is the versions, I think, is a really great one for especially our lighting friends who might want to be in their fractal mode and quickly select another fractal, and they want to see, okay, what does this look like? Maybe they want to drag in one and from a different fractal into the same shot and scale that and move it. All their fractals are in sort of one place, which can make a lot of sense. I think it's worth talking a little bit about some of the organization stuff you can do here as well, because there are, again, there's 100 different ways to do certain things, and everyone's going to have their own sort of workflow that makes sense to them. So if we're looking at the version stack here, I can delete these. So I can hold this, click this one on the Mac. I'm going to do function delete or backspace on a PC. Again, I can change the thumbnail here, but let's say that, especially if you think of having, like, let's say you have 100 different fires, how can you easily see what's what, or how can you rearrange them? So these, by default, if I go into here, you can see this also through here. This is the bottom one is the basically the first clip, right? And this is the second one and the third one. You can either in the version stack here or in the construct, I can reorganize these. So I can take this one and drag it down to here, or I can drag this one down here. And so let's say you have 5 effects that you use a lot. You can just reorder them so they're always at the bottom. So that's one thing you could do for sure. And again, if you have a clip here, so I click on this and drag to the right to pull it out, and then I can let go of the mouse and it sticks to the mouse. I can also hold down space to move up and down the timeline again. Let's say let's take it another step further. What if you see on the top right of these clips, there's this little, I forget what you call this thing when you fold the page down. You can actually drop notes in here as well. So I can say, love this one, and then I enter that, and now you can see there's a note here on top of everything else. There's a note here, and that yellow is also corresponding to the color that you choose. So you can go through and label everything purple, for instance, that you really like, or you can enable things red that you've already used. Let's say you've already used it in your show and you don't want to use it again. That's one thing you could do. If you click at the bottom here, you can rename the clip. So let's say this fire sparks is the most important part of it. Let's just rename this to be fire sparks, and then it doesn't change the. I didn't press enter, so it didn't remember it. So I'm going to delete that and press OK or press enter, and now we have fire sparks here. So there's ways you can do it that way, where you can just go through and rename these to be Hellfire, and then you're going to be a little bit easier to see what these clips are by renaming them. And then also, if you hold down Alt and click, it's going to copy that. So you could also, let's say you want to make a new shot over here, and I'm going to go ahead and delete these ones. I'm going to click on it in the middle somewhere and delete. I can hold down Alt if I want to copy it, drag it over. If I want to move it, I can just drag it out. So let's say I don't want these two clips in the fractal, but I want them in a new timeline. I can do it that way. And now I have this timeline that has, a few different effects in it. Or excuse me, this is not a timeline, a new shot that has these different effects in it. And of course you can make a new timeline as well. So I can add a timeline and call this selects, and then I can go in here and I can say, you know what, I love this one. If I click and hold it and drag it out, I can bring it into selects and just drop it on the timeline here. And I can do the same for, let's do this water here, and let's do this cloud here. And you can just go through and do this for as many as you want. You can shift select multiple ones, or in this case I should do command select because I'm doing it in the same timeline. So let's say I wanted these four. I can drag these into selects and bring them into here. And again, I can rearrange these however I want. This is very much user dependent of how you want to do it. Okay, that's going to wrap up this tutorial. Just a quick overview of how to import lots of clips and subfolders, and how to bring them in as versions or as timelines or as one long timeline. Hopefully this is helpful for you, and I'll see you guys in the next video.